We start the session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sushil. I am a wildlife photographer, filmmaker, and an author of wildlife books. I primarily have a master's in biodiversity. My introduction to Siddharth is basically we were batchmates in graduation. I finished my graduation with specialization in zoology, and he specialized in geology. But we did a lot of fieldwork together. And it was last year during one of our exhibitions where Siddharth spoke about bioacoustics, and I was very fascinated about it. Within the recent few years, I have been creating video and audio libraries of species that I came across. I have been spending a lot of time in Northeast recently, especially Sikkim, and I decided there's a lot of data that is missing from India or that hasn't been recorded, or let's call it data deficient, and that's where I got into it. And when Siddharth spoke about this, I was really fascinated to learn about it myself, and that is when we decided to bring on Siddharth for this talk. Now, what is Journeys Meetup is basically this is a community of people who like to explore, who like to learn any and everything about outdoors. It is not necessarily scientific every time. It is not necessarily photography related. It can be anything to do with outdoors. And we do online and offline sessions. We are bringing back this meetup culture because we used to do it very actively and then we stopped it for a year or two. This year we're starting, and the first one is Bioacoustics with Siddharth. The next few are lined up. This is also a platform for a lot of new people to come together, find like-minded people. Maybe you can share your ideas on things you would like to do with us. Maybe together, collectively, you can plan your own activities. We would be, we would be like, it would be great if we could be a part of it. But even if you're not, we are glad that we could connect like-minded people. So this brings me to today's topic, which is bioacoustics, and our speaker Siddharth. I would hand over the platform to Siddharth now on. So if you could introduce yourself and you can start with the session today. Thank you.
Thanks, Sushil. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of people from different parts of Pune and India. And yeah, a lot of, while introducing ourselves, I was noting down some of the common questions. So I'll answer those questions through the talk itself. About myself, I did my post graduation in geology. So by training, I'm a geologist. Worked in hydrogeology for a couple of years, and that was a time when I roamed across different areas in India, helping communities to conserve groundwater. Also, there was a concept of ecological health monitoring, where you understand how biodiversity is shaping up once interventions of groundwater conservation, forest restoration are practiced. And this is where my first introduction to bioacoustic started. And it was random. I just started. So initially it was started by bird surveys, where, as all of us know, when we go in jungles, we hear a lot of calls. Then I didn't like then seeing birds by sight, or even other mammals for sometimes. And this is when we started recording calls, or I learned how to record calls. And then eventually I also now I'm a ecologist, practitioner of biodiversity surveys and restoration projects, forest restoration. And I also use bioacoustic as a tool to monitor biodiversity wherever restoration projects are taken place. And I'll walk you through the research part of it during the talk. And yeah, the common question for everyone is, I would like to know bird calls, or I would like to identify bird by calls. A simple example, like when we go out for any, like, it can be a nature walk, it can be a trail, it even can be safaris. And sometimes when you are accompanied with a naturalist or a guide who start telling you about bird calls, or who just starts identifying, oh, there's some alarm call, oh, there's something, this different bird is calling, oh, there's a flycatcher and it's one of your wish list bird. and you go to that place and you find a flycatcher. Or late in the evening in forest rest house or lodges, you start hearing owls, and you don't like we are not introduced to those sounds. We don't listen to those sounds day in day out, and all of a sudden we are spooked. So what is this sound, like this scary sound is? And this is how the curiosity drives us towards looking for calls. And then this is a first step. When you hear a call, track down, if possible, track down that bird, go where the calls are coming from, and see it for yourself. Because birds are amazing creatures. Every bird, like each bird, can make many different sounds, and we are going to see how varied and different they are, and what all these bird calls are called, or what is bioacoustic. I'm just gonna give you a quick introduction today. It's not a workshop where I'm gonna put a lot of science on it, tell you a lot of softwares to use and all. But this is the first introduction. This is the first step, and I'm gonna share my stories on field and experiences while understanding bird calls and how interesting and informative it was. Okay, so here we go. I just give me a second. Yeah. Yes, so I'm going to share my screen. So she'll just let me know if you can see the screen once I start sharing. Okay.
Yeah, we are good.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, when we say eavesdropping on bird calls or bioacoustic or listening to birds, this is what my guru or my teacher told me. Like if you want to check where the bird is sitting or where the bird is located. All of us have seen cows, all of us have seen dogs, all of us have seen cats and some deer and other animals. Whenever any minute sound is coming from surrounding, their ears go right and left, and they are actually narrowing down. They are looking for the place from where the sound is coming. If you look at human ear, it's quite small. Our pinnas are very small because we started focusing on eyes and smell and other senses more than the calls, evolutionary. So now we have to unlearn few skills. So every time when you hear something out in field, you just make cup out of your hands and place it behind your ears. What happens? You are actually going to use this as a parabola dish and enhance your hearing. And we have also seen elderly people sometimes do like this, because as we grow old, our hearing sense drop. Then we have to try all these nuskas or the tricks. So what does it mean by eavesdropping on bird calls? Is like basically listening to birds, basically paying attention not just to their calls, but to the species, also what is happening around, because birds are not alone. There are so many birds which are related to each other, not genetically, but by their habitat. As we know, if you see a red-whiskered bulbul somewhere nearby or close by, you'll also find Indian white eyes. Uh, Similarly, you will also find a flycatcher. Depending on habitat, we see birds, they forage together, they go everywhere in flocks. This is called mixed species flocks. And sometimes a bulbul might give some peculiar sound, and other bulbuls and some other species, as I said, white eyes or fantail flycatcher or iora, those who are foraging around, might show some different behavior. And this is what we tend to say eavesdropping on bird calls. So understanding calls, where are they coming from, what creatures are making those sounds, and what is the behavioral context of it. And I like to put it as admixture of art and science. So basically, we use a lot of equipments, which is a scientific part of it. It's nothing but a using a microphone, a recorder, and storing the sounds. It's just like how we use cameras and we take videos or pictures. But what is the art in this? The art part is actually understanding when do bird calls, like when do bird vocalize, when these species are found in different regions. How do we decrease distance without disturbing these birds and go closer so that you can get clear sounds? Also, you can see in this picture that I have also put a binocular. So it's not a science of capturing sounds alone, but you have to also see what is the context, why that bird is calling, or what is happening next, what is like after a call, what's goes on later on. So this is art and science. This is actually based in natural history so much that once you know what all species usually occur in this area and you start understanding their calls, this can extrapolate to the health of even to the health of the forest or health of that ecosystem, because something goes wrong, the habitat gets disturbed, the species are going to reduce, the biodiversity is going to change, or some other birds might start coming and taking advantage of that particular area. Let me make it simple by an example. uh, some 50 years ago, on our beautiful Vetal Hill in Pune, there used to be a quarry. You can imagine a nice hillock. We all of us are quite you know acquainted with Vetal Tekri. That's why I'm giving this example. We know that now that quarry exists and it has got water in it. But try to imagine what was earlier. Like they had demolished, they had, the blasting was going on. I'm sure that at that time there wouldn't have been any bird around. But later on, as water started depositing in the quarry, spot-billed ducks must have come, some frogs must have come, and acoustically that quarry on Vetal Hill have changed now what we see today. Uh, Even seasonal variation is also can be observed in the same quarry, which was earlier created to dug out basalt rock. Now it is actually how it actually is a nice habitat, a small pond or a lake, we can say, where waders, ducks, flycatchers, uh, cormorants, lapwings, a lot of birds can be seen and even heard. So, how do we practice this art and science of listening bird calls? First of all, yes, whenever you hear a call outside your house, just go to a window and try to see if you can find that bird. Secondly, now here is a portrait of devices what you can use to bird calls. So let's move from left to right. The first person you can see is who is wearing specs and blue t-shirt. He's wearing blue t-shirt. He has got a small microphone and he's holding his mobile as well. So one can even connect very handy. This is handy tool. Like you can use your phone as a recorder, as a digital recorder, and you can connect it to a microphone and record calls. Perhaps he is actually using omnidirectional microphone, which can capture sounds from all directions with the same power or same intensity. Next to him, there's a lady who is actually holding a microphone like a pistol. She has got a microphone, and again, that microphone is connected to a digital recorder, handheld recorder, and she's also, all of them have got binoculars so that they can observe the birds while they're calling. So this is again the same system, but some microphones are directional microphones. So whatever is in front will be recorded in high power or high decibel, and whatever is on side, the sounds will be nullified, or sounds will be those sounds will the sound capture from sides will be lower. So your focal species or your focus species, like magpie robin in our gardens, if it's singing facing towards you and you go and hold your microphone and start the recorder, you will get maximum gain, and you'll get a sharper signal. So it's nothing but the your quality of your recording will be enhance. Same magpie robin, if it changes the position and now it's facing other way around, its back is towards you, like then we have to go around and then again replace ourselves. The lady in middle, who is wearing a cap, she is holding a bigger microphone, but the similar setup. Maybe she has got a better recorder with more channels. That's why she has put the recorder in the bag. And you can see a funny thing on the recorder, what she's holding in a pistol grip, which looks like a muff or a windscreen. It is also called dead cat fur. So the fur is actually used to decrease the sound or the disturbance by wind, and it smoothens your recordings as well. So that dead cat fur or windscreen enhance the quality of the recording. And the last person in this slide is holding a parabola dish, something which looks like umbrella. This parabola dish, and there is a microphone inside. Now, all of us must have played this game in our childhood where you use magnifying glass and you used to burn paper. So, what was happening there? Magnifying glass was actually capturing or signaling sun rays at the center and enhancing the power, and because of that, the result was paper used to get burned. Similarly, in parabola dish, all the sounds get reflected back to the microphone and your quality of your recording is enhanced. So what is the difference between all this directional microphones or omnidirectional microphones and parabola dish is the signal to power ratio in parabola dish is changed. So this is nothing but amplifying your recordings. So when depending on question, suppose I want crisp and clear recordings, like Rishi here, who is one of our viewers today or participants in our meet, he used to record some sounds for games and movies and stuff. Uh, I presume like if you use parabola dish, you'll get crisp and clear sounds. Whereas depending on questions, like suppose he wants to, like suppose uh, in movie shoot, we want to record hero and heroine, we use boom pole or they have hidden microphones. But if you want to use some ambient sound as a filler, like where there are cars going by, honking sound and noise, you need omnidirectional microphone where everything is captured at the same time. So this there are depending on what equipment you get used to. Also, what is your question? If you want to make a library, yes, parabola dish, amazing unit. One can record enhanced sounds. But if you want to record sounds or calls, bird calls for research, where the power, signal to power ratio has to be constant, then one has to go for omnidirectional or directional microphone. So let's not get into too much details of how to use equipments, but the way we use our cameras, we in bird call recording we use microphone and a digital recorder now, and you start capturing sounds. Now, before we get into further behavior stuff and voice detailing of bird calls and sounds and stuff, how do basically bird call? So uh, we have sound box, we have membranes. Vocalization happens because of the sound box in humans, whereas in birds there is a organ called syrinx or syrinx, and I've shown like in the slide we can see how the syrinx where the syrinx is placed in bird's body. There are even air sacs connected to lung. Lung is connected to bronchus, and bronchus, in between bronchus and trachea there is this syrinx. This syrinx has got two, we can see there are lines uh, like yeah, so two inflows of air, and there is one membrane which vibrates, which opens and closes. So when air passes through syrinx, depending on right or left, and depending on how much the the membrane is open. Like if membrane is completely open, there'll be a different sound. If it's partially open, there'll be a different sound. And if a membrane on top of syrinx, if it keeps vibrating, the bird will make trill sound. And this unique apparatus or this unique uh, organ enables bird to call between two different frequencies. So sometimes we are always puzzled. Right now I was hearing something which was in high frequency, and suddenly there's a shift and there is a trill, and again there is the same whistle. How is this even possible? There are no other birds uh, around, and it's actually a same bird which is mixing those two different notes, one in high frequency, one in low frequency, by using its siring very well. We also see sometimes birds have their beaks open, and many times you'll see beak also keeps moving. So that also helps them in making those notes and changing how these notes sound like. The note might be the same, but depending on opening of beak, like how much beak is open and how much is closed, it might sound differently. So birds are always going to trick us when it comes to bird calls and songs, because they use so many uh, techniques. Now there are different types of calls, and usually early in morning and late in evening there's a orchestra of bird calls, and we also call it as a chorus, because all the birds are calling uh, early morning, and or when they go back to their roost in evenings. There are several other, like many birds calling at the same time, and we get to hear them. It's like an orchestra. So birds which are diurnal, they uh, they do most of their activity in daytime. Uh, for them, this rising and retiring calls follows the morning and evening schedule. But what will happen to owls? Can you just drop down your answers in the chat box? Like suppose there is a spotted owlet. When will the spotted owlet, when do you expect spotted owlet to give rising calls? In the evening or in morning? And when do you expect spotted owlet to give retiring calls? Again, in evening or in morning? So you can just write down rising calls morning or rising calls evening, and will understand that you have understood the question. Yeah, Sushil, you can just read the text in chat if someone drops down the answer.
Yeah, so Aniket says the evening is rising calls, morning is retiring calls. Anand says owls would be opposite, rising in the evening, retiring in the morning.
Perfect.
CS says just
Hmm.
before dusk, and Hamza says evening rising, morning retiring. So I think there's
Perfect.
common consensus on the vote there.
Yes, yes, because all of us know, or I assume that yes, owls are nocturnal, so it reverses in the owls. Now, what is communication call? So we are also communicating. We are not, this is just a meetup. So we don't have any agenda, but we are talking. Do birds also chit chat when they forage, or when they change their roosting spots, or when they move from their nest to feeding grounds and all? Yes, they do. Like a simple example, many of us must have seen jungle babblers, and when we see flock of jungle babblers, some of them are there on the ground, and while they are pecking and removing leaf litter and pecking on insects, they make some calls like "tah," and some random calls are going on. Similarly, if you go to Valparai or Namdafa, we happen to take a stroll in jungles, and we come across a nice fig tree where we see a lot of hornbills. While they are feeding on figs, these hornbills will keep giving calls, and there is some communication going on. Another example, a day-to-day example, which we can see in our gardens, is bulbuls, sunbirds, or even white eyes. I'm sure all of you must have heard like gulmohar is flowering everywhere, and when these white eyes they come on gulmohar trees to catch caterpillars or look for nectar, they keep making that very low frequency sound like teek teek, and entire flock keeps moving, keeps relocating themselves from one branch to other branch. So these are all communication calls. There are flight calls like when you happen to see egrets or night herons when they set out for their, especially night herons, when they set out for foraging again in evening, in the flight they keep calling, and that's how they are actually telling each other in which area they are heading to forage tonight. Another example would be bar-headed geese. When I'm sure all bird photographers must have, gone to different water bodies to photograph these birds. But when you see them in flock, these birds are calling. What happens at the water body? There are several flocks which are fusing together, and to identify where your flock is, birds actually use these flight calls. Alarm calls and distress calls, I don't have to explain it much to our group today because all of you are photographers, all of you have ventured out, and I'm very much like I'm sure that all of you must have come across this term called alarm calls. Yes, the way spotted deer give alarm calls while tiger or leopard or wild dogs or any predator is nearby, similarly birds also give alarm calls. And depending on if it's a solitary creature or they forage in flocks, they have a different system of alarm calls. Distress calls, yes, birds give distress calls when they are not happy about something. Suppose uh, there's a predator on the ground which is actually not going to hunt the bird, like a dog. There's no threat to a bulbul by a dog. But there is an animal which is a predatory animal, and these bulbuls might get distressed for a while and they keep calling. Similarly, so these calls are distress calls where they're not really giving alarm calls, like alarming their fellow mates or other birds, but they are just noting down that there is some creature nearby and they're distressed about it. Similarly, when we go out very close to a bird bath, so all of a sudden all the birds will fly. Some birds like pigeons or laughing dove will make flapping sounds that should distract us, and bulbuls and mynas and other birds might start chattering, and that is actually a distress call. Food begging call, a very simple term. When we are hungry, we tell our parents or we tell our friends that I am hungry, or suddenly our stomach starts growling. When birds are, when the baby bird or a chick is actually hungry and it's asking for food, that is a food begging call. And this follows right from young hatchlings till the juveniles or the sub-adults. Sub-adults are actually independent, but till juveniles, sometimes we also come across Kukul, like you can see, or crows. Now they're nesting, so you might be able to see this behavior. Whenever a mother or father or adult crow comes very close to a nest, you'll see birds, little chicks, they pop out, the beaks are wide open, and they give peculiar call, and that is actually a food begging call. After a few days, the chick starts following their parents, and still they are calling. They are hungry. They don't know what to eat, and how to hunt, and they're learning it. And you see that okay, adult bird picks up something, goes near to that chick and feeds, and those are the food begging calls. Mating calls. Mating calls are very brief in birds like shikra or raptors, whereas if we start looking at sarus crane, they have a nice ritual of songs, dance, and while they mate, they make very different calls, and those are mating calls, or sometimes also terms as songs. Which is next the breeding song. So in old texts, you'll find mating calls and breeding calls have been separated. It is also based on species, where sometimes the songbirds are treated differently than owls and raptors and other birds, or nightjars, which actually don't make complex sounds, and that's why they are not put into songbirds. Uh, and the new terms are actually songs, where mating calls and breeding songs are merged together. Simply to put together is during breeding season, whatever vocalization is done by birds is can be treated as a song. Then it might be owl, it might be a bird like Oriental magpie robin or shama, or drongos, which mix and match different tunes or not tunes, the notes, and make their songs, which are directed for finding a mate, and the purpose is breeding. So this is basically a definition of songs. Now let's get back to some stories. I'm sure
So,
you must have heard. Yes,
sorry,
yes,
Sid,
Sushil.
I am
Sorry.
interrupting you. Sorry. There is a question by Swati related to your previous slide.
Okay.
I'm reading out the question. The question is: a white-breasted kingfisher also always calls out while flying from one tree to another. That would be
Yes,
a flight call? Question mark.
yes, that will be a flight call. But now we have to check the behavior. Sometimes these kingfishers, especially during breeding season, they change their perch and keep calling, and that would be a song. So if you see a white-throated kingfisher uh, disturbed from one location and while flying, they give calls. Yes, that is a flight call. Whereas it's perched on a pole, calls for a while, then goes in nearby location, sits, settles down there, and again calls. That will be a song. And this, the second behavior, you will see it during breeding season, which is currently on. It's slightly before the monsoon arrives. Uh, you see this vocalization, and the flight call, you'll always see it invariably of any season. Whenever kingfisher flies, it just starts that call and then it just disappears. So that can be termed as a flight call. Yeah. Can I go ahead?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So uh, in South India, Indian pitta is called Aramani Kuruvi or 6 o'clock bird. So how do we actually, bird and bird calls must have been the integrated part of human evolution. We have evolved as predators, like we used to hunt. We were hunter and gatherers initially. So I guess we must be hearing bird calls and bird sounds right from hunter and gatherer stage. And then we also understood which bird calls at what time, depending on, again, habitat. So Indian pitta in South India, it gives its retiring and rising and retiring calls somewhere close to 6 o'clock, and that's how that's how it's called as 6 o'clock bird. Now, suppose because of global warming, something goes wrong, and instead of 6 o'clock, where Pitta's niche ground or habitat is, it starts calling. It's just imagine a chaotic scenario that it's early morning, uh, Pitta is giving call, and its timing is changed. You can actually trace back the cultural evidences of bird songs, they calls names, and what is happening now. But even then, like even now, I'm so happy in the time of global warming. Till date, Pitta is still called 6 o'clock bird. It's not changed to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock bird. But this story stands true for Indian Pitta during non-breeding season in South India. As we go ahead, I'll tell you what happens when during breeding season when Pitta migrates to Central India. Similarly, there is another story of common hawk cuckoo or brain fever bird. This is the time, like in and around Pune, it's turning cloudy, and we are gonna soon. We all of us are expecting rains, monsoons, and not just us, but even common hawk cuckoos are expecting rainy season, and they're gonna be super vocal uh, in coming days. And what happens is this behavior of common hawk cuckoo, where it starts giving its song. I'm gonna play it for you. Was you know uh, so farmers, they when they hear this song, they know that monsoon has settled, and this is the time to start sowing the seeds. And that's how we call this bird in Marathi. It is everywhere in Maharashtra. It is called Perteva, the song of common cuckoo, where the bird is actually telling or it's indicating uh, settling of monsoon, and that has been used by farmers to sow the seeds. And this is how the bird. Now I'm going to play a video. While this video is playing, you can notice the behavior of this particular individual, which is on the screen. And at the same time, so there are actually two birds which are calling. One, what we can see, one which is there in the screen, on the screen, and one is hidden. And there is a bit of competition. And this competition is actually counter singing. When two male birds come together during breeding season, they chase each other by songs. They try to, the way male gore sizes each other, going round and round and showing their muscles, and avoiding tug of war where they bang their horns. Birds are using sounds when they check each other's stamina. They also check each other's pitch and who is better sounding like. And I'm sure the third individual must be a female, which is somewhere close by. And because of this, because of the presence of that female, this tussle is going on and on. So I'm just going to play this video for you. So as we just saw that suddenly this bird stops calling, but there is still a sound like peteva or brain fever. That is actually another individual which was calling from somewhere else and actually challenging this bird. And this phenomena is called countersinking, where two birds are countering each other or sizing each other based on sounds. Similarly, I happen to go to Corbett for research work.
There is another question.
Okay,
Sorry,
yes.
there is a
Good to
question
have
related
question.
to previous slide.
Ha.
The question is by Varun. The question is brain fever calling in late hours at night. Is it anything specific? Like, is there any specific reason for it?
Okay, so brain fever calling at late night hours is actually because of the hormones in breeding season. Also, sometimes what happens in breeding season, like we have to go back to a little bit of ornithology here. Birds' metabolism is very fast, and they digest their food very early. So they are up early, and especially in breeding season, they want to maximize all the efforts to keep their territory or keep their turf and chase away all the intruding challengers or the other commoner cuckoo when we talk about common cuckoo. This also seen by Asian quail. Sometimes all of a sudden 3 o'clock in morning you hear Asian quail calling. So it's actually because of their hormonal high levels of hormones, they are super active during breeding season, and they have only one specific aim is to pass on their genes, and to do that they are maximizing their efforts to keep their territory intact and keep all the intruders away. So they'll keep calling uh, early morning, late hours, even random times, and especially this is seen in birds like cuckoos, which are actually brood parasites. Yes. So we come to the folklore, and so we heard, like I told you, two stories which are actual, deep rooted in our cultures, like Armani Kuruvi or Teteva, and these stories have been passed on for generations. In Corbett, I happened to do some research, and while we were on field location, every day I used to see the very old lady getting a cattle in buffer area. We are located in buffer area, and she used to get her cattle out for grazing. And I noticed that she's coming out very like somewhere 7:30 or 8 o'clock when it was bright enough, even in winter times. And she was quite good at keeping time. And every evening she used to go back at the same time. So I was curious and I just asked, like, what do you actually, how do you actually follow time? I don't see any wrist, you are not wearing wristwatch or you don't have even a mobile phone. And she happened to tell me very interesting story. She said, I had been seeing you recording bird calls and you're actually fool asking me this question. I was surprised. And she said, don't you hear red jungle fowl calling? And that is actually my alarm call, or that is actually my alarm clock. When I hear red jungle fowl, I feel safe. I know that light has reached Pagdandi or a food tray and it's safe to walk around. And I was so amazed with her story, I just made it into a folklore called Saveri Ho. So now I'm gonna play uh, this call of red jungle fowl, and this is a trick. When we hear bird calls, and most of us want to, identify birds by calls, I'm going to tell you something. Whenever you hear a call, try to put it in your own words. Like we do for coppersmith barbet, where we describe barbet as poop, 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 poop call, or we had been describing Asian quails call like coo, coo, something, that sort of. So, when I had to make this story of Saveri Ho, and I heard the red jungle fowl's rising call, I just put, for me, red jungle fowl calls became Saveri Ho, and it sounds like Saveri Ho, and a nice folklore came across. So yes, I'm gonna play this call for you. Similarly, there are some birds which are named by their calls, like we say coppersmith barbet. In Marathi, the name is Tambat. And as I told you, that the sound it actually sounds like coppersmith working on a vessel. Or when you go to Tambat Ali, where this coppersmith are working, you constantly hear them banging on copper metal, and that resembles the sound of this bird. And it's also uh, the name is given by its peculiar sound, and it's called coppersmith barbet. All of us know greater cockle, and in Hindi it is called kukut kumbha. And the very low frequency sound of this greater cockle, uh, because of that sound, in Hindi it is called as kukut kumbha. Now let's simplify this bird calls and bird song by an example. And here I'm gonna help you out to not just listen to sounds, but while listening, we are going to read this spectrogram. So all of us can see a magpie robin's photograph here, and at the bottom there's a diagram which is called as spectrogram. And uh, in this spectrogram, on y-axis is kilohertz, the unit in which bird calls or sounds are measured, and on x-axis we have seconds, 0 to 11 seconds as per this photograph. It can go on and on. So while I play this call, you'll see some signature, like for an example, at 1 second you can see the down up signature, like from low frequency to high, low to high, low to high signature, and followed by 1 second. Then there is another signature between 3 and 4. Then there is 6 and 7 seconds. Then 9 and 10. So while I play this call, try to follow the, like, try to listen to it, and try to follow the spectrogram as well. And this is nothing but a single note which is repeated one after other, but the notes are not changing. So this is nothing but a call of of magpie robin, oriental magpie robin, where in non-breeding season or even during breeding season, a single note down up is continued in for some duration, and that is nothing but a call. But when we come to song, now it's the same bird, oriental magpie robin. Uh, in this spectrogram, you can see the in between 2 kilo 2 kilohertz to 6 kilohertz band, there is admixture of notes. Let's exclude frequencies between 0 to 2 kilohertz, that is some other bird, and in between 4 to 6 there are some other sounds as well. But now we know, in this 2 kilohertz to 6 kilohertz band, throughout our time zone, in between 3 to 4 seconds, then 7 to 10 seconds, then 12 to 15 seconds, the bird is actually singing. It's actually adding different notes, sometimes going up and down, and in between there are some trill sounds, or sometimes it's making complex admixture of notes, and that is and these notes are put one behind other, and it's making a song which is actually to attract a female bird. Also, in some species, it's not only male birds which make sounds like these, which are called song, but female birds, they do join singing, and there are duets. The magpie robin itself is an example where, during courtship, female bird joins the male bird and they sing duet. Similarly, Indian scimitar babbler, the regular call which we hear when we go out in jungles, it's actual, and it has got a gap in between. So it's actually a duet where male birds gives two notes and then there is a gap, and female bird, which is the mate, starts like gives one note, and that's a duet what we hear during breeding season. So let's look at Magpie Robin's song. Let's hear it and also follow the spectrogram while we listen to this song. Another thing, this recording is done by me using a shotgun microphone, where all other birds which were sitting close to the magpie robin which is singing, they have also been, or their sounds are also being captured. If it would have been parabola dish and I would have been very directional, I would have just got magpie robin's sound in this recording as well. Now we let's deviate a bit. I'm just assuming that all of us have understood difference between calls and song. I've been telling it again and again, and it's very simple. The complex sounds which we hear by birds during breeding season, those are actually songs, and rest all the time when they communicate to each other, the single note or similar notes are given one behind other are nothing but calls. Now, something I'm going to show you from the field exercise. We were in Namdafa recording hornbills. Along with the vocalization, we've also wanted to learn or understand if we can identify hornbills like great hornbill, wreath hornbill, the big hornbills, based on their sounds of their wing beats. So, if I just show you a video, in this video, I'm just like we were standing under a very big fig tree where a great pied hornbill, wreath hornbills were feeding, and great pied hornbill just came randomly to join the feeding session, and its unannounced presence actually spooked all the wreath hornbills. And when I show you a video, you'll just see bird entering a frame and all birds flying away. Uh, those who have got very sharp hearing sense will also hear the sounds of these birds flying away and see how our eyes or see how it looks like when there is very faint sound, a big bird, but the, the DSLR what we were using couldn't capture the sounds. So in random video, we can't really see what is happening around. But this is how it sounds. So now I'm sure you must have understood the difference when we put sounds together with the videos, or when we hear something, it has a great impact. And this is how we learn that yes, we can uh, not just by just one recording, but by hours and hours of recording, we understood yes we can. And analyzing the recordings, we came to conclusion that yes we can identify big birds by their flights as well, or the wing beat sound as well. And this research is still continuing. Sometimes we come across cuckoos which are calling right out in open on the open perch, and we get confused like, oh, this bird is actually announcing its presence. Once I saw a grey-bellied cuckoo out on a babool tree, the Acacia nilotica, calling loudly, actually singing loudly, and at the same time we also noticed jungle prenia, which was also singing. Now, the grey-bellied cuckoo is a predatory or host parasite, not a predatory, but a host parasite of jungle prenia. Grey-bellied cuckoo lays eggs in jungle prenia and other prenia's nest. By announcing its presence so loudly, it was doing two things. It was actually shooing away other grey-bellied cuckoo males from that territory, also distracting jungle prenia for a while. And same thing happened. The jungle prenia, male female, just left their perch and went behind this grey-bellied cuckoo. And at the same time, we saw another big bird, presumably female grey-bellied cuckoo, randomly went to a place where these prenias were located earlier, and she must have laid eggs in the jungle prenia's nest. So birds do like birds use their sound and calls sometimes even to distract other birds in the area, and this is one of the examples. Followed by, similarly, a friend of mine saw same behavior, and after a few days, they came across sunbird, purple rump sunbird, which was feeding grey-bellied cuckoo chick. So this trick used by grey-bellied cuckoo was the, the, was the purple rump sunbird was tricked by grey-bellied cuckoo here, and yes, it ended up raising grey-bellied cuckoo's chick. Sometimes we also hear grey hornbills in our vicinity, and they are very loud, especially when they are about to make their nest in a big tree, in the tree hollow, or surprisingly, even in buildings nowadays. And when there are juveniles around, this chattering activity of hornbills is super loud. Now, coming to experts of bird calls and bird songs, and a great mimicker, greater rackettail drongo. There are several other birds which can mimic sounds of birds and uh, animals and other things in their surroundings, and one of them is greater rackettail drongo. Sometimes we see, like when we go out on safaris, especially in central India, you see greater rackettail drongo heard somewhere and calling randomly, and all of a sudden you'll find woodpeckers, tree pies, jungle babblers, flycatchers, several other birds coming together. So, greater rackettail actually uses bird calls to attract other birds, and once they start feeding around, he joins the hunting party, or he joins this flock of mixed species which is looking for food from right of the canopy, top of the canopy to the forest floor. And this behavior, not just rackettail drongos behavior, but other drongos behavior has been recorded, where they attract attention of other birds or other animals and take advantage of it. And this phenomena of seeing mixed species flock hunting together. It's also called as hunting for hunting party in many of our wildlife books. Yes. So uh, the mixed flock of birds species feeding together is also known as, we can say, foraging flock, maybe hunting flock. No, it's actually a hunting party. The answer C is correct. Now, I'm just going to show you a very complex song, not show, but play this complex song of Oriental Magpie Robin. And as one of the question was, oh, what was the like, why does Commonwealth cuckoo calls late night hours? So similarly, I ended up recording this Oriental Magpie Robin almost at 3:30 in morning in Satpura Tiger Reserve, right where I was living, right next to my cottage. And yes, it was a breeding season. There was no other bird singing at that time, but this male magpie robin was up and he was playing, like he was calling out loudly uh, its uh, its song during its breeding season. So depending on the habitat, depending on the area, sometimes birds, like the bird's dialect also changes. Also, birds like magpie robin or packet-tailed rongo, they try to absorb as much as possible from their surroundings. They learn from their neighbors and mix and match notes and make beautiful songs like this. There's another type of song which is called sub song. So the several birds, or uh, we can say young birds, and even like just before the breeding season, all birds try to weave their song together, and that's the time when they are rehearsing. The song is not well practiced, but they are trying to mix and match notes and form that song. And uh, once they are confident enough that they have practiced it, rehearsed it very well, they will sing out loudly. And this is what we see in birds like long-tailed shrikes, magpie robins, and all songbirds. Just at the arrival of breeding season or slightly before breeding season, they are rehearsing the song, mixing and matching of the notes happening. And during afternoons, during early morning, you will find individual birds sitting, perching on a bush or a tree and rehearsing their songs. And this is one of the example of sub songs where long-tailed shrike is trying to weave its song, and this particular type is called sub songs. I'll just play it for you. Now, I'm gonna take you to Satpura, which is nested in Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve, and show you some of the field stories. Where initially, when I started recording bird calls in and around the premises of the lodge, the very common bird was nothing but jungle babblers. And as I told you about distress calls, the first few recordings on almost 1 week, the resident flock of jungle babblers, whenever they used to see me around, they gave nothing but distress calls. And what I ended up recording sounds something like this. Similarly, we also come across predators or predatory birds like eagles. In the breeding season, they are also quite vocal, and this is one of the recording of changeable hawk eagle, where you'll also notice that it's not about only about humans or other creatures. When we get tired of singing or calling again and again, but it also found in birds. In this recording, we'll end up hearing a changeable hawk eagle, which is actually marking its territory by using call, but as it was doing for longer duration, it actually got hurt. So he takes a longer break in between. The bird is actually recovering from the exertion, and now in scrolling spectrogram, you know when the call is going to start. When I saw my first fork-tailed Rongo cuckoo, I haven't come across this bird many times. I identified as some juvenile Rongo, and when I recorded this bird, it sounded very similar to changeable hawk eagle sound. And when you record birds like this, like any bird in your equipment, a good way is to actually record some commentary or your observations. And I have ended up recording that, oh, I am recording juvenile drongo, which is sounding like changeable hawk eagle. Then a friend like Sushil, I approached to a naturalist friend like friend of me, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I recorded drongo, which was calling like changeable hawk eagle." And then he corrected me. He said, "No, it's actually a different bird." But this is what happens where we learn that sometimes different species also can sound very similar. And that's why while recording bird calls, it's important to also observe what all species you can see around and which bird is actually calling. Similarly, Indian pitta. I told you that I'm going to tell you a different story about pitta when it goes to Central India. So in Central India, uh, I have recorded this pitta, but at the same time, there was another bird in background, which is the Indian cuckoo, and it keeps calling at the same time while pitta is vocalizing. And we found, like in Central India, you'll find pitta only during summers because there are summer migrants to Central India, Central Indian landscape, and they breed over there. And so, arrival of pitta in Satpura, Bandhavgarh, uh, or in Central Indian landscape, even in Dang in Gujarat, is actually for mating or breeding season. And before you start seeing this beautiful bird out on jungle pathways or in bushes, you start hearing them. So as soon as they reach their destination, they are very loud and they start vocalizing because each bird wants to mark its territory right at its arrival. So here we are gonna, yeah, that's the cuckoo. Again a cuckoo and Indian cuckoo again. Yes, overlapped with Indian pitta. That's Indian pitta calling in two notes. Maybe this time is he was very close. So this is how we also understand how the spectrograms help us to see or visualize the bird call. Now, it had been a while. I had been telling you all this information and stories. So let's play a quiz. What I'll do here, I'll play a call. You have two spectrograms, one on top, one at the bottom. I have also placed two photographs of two different birds, and I'm going to play a sound or a call of a bird looking at the species, the photographs. Also, looking at the spectrogram, you have to guess whether it's a top bird or a bottom bird. Let's say one on the top is A and one at the bottom is B. So I'll play a call one and you can drop your answers in chat box whether it was a call of bird A or a B. So bird A is the bird on the top, the spectrogram on the top, and bird B is the spectrogram on the bottom. Okay, I'll play this again and you can guess it one more time. Yeah. Sushil, can you let me know if
Yes, so most of the people here think bird B is the answer.
okay, let's check this out. Yeah, and as we know, this time is actually helping us. The time stamp on the spectrogram is actually helping us to segregate the bird call or the identify whether it's A or B. So you have done a good job checking it out for yourself. Now we'll move to next bird. Yes, and now it's a little tricky. We have two drongos. On top we have racket-tailed drongo. At the bottom we have black drongo. All of us can see rectal spot on its at the base of its beak. Now let me play the call for you. Okay, you can tell me whether it's A or B. Okay, do we have any answers?
Uh, so except for Sachin, who says B, everybody else, Sachin and Suyash think it's B, everybody else thinks it's A.
Okay, let me play bird B for you. Yeah. So this time it was a little tricky. Uh, the timestamp on both the spectrograms are quite similar, but when we listen to the call, we also need to imagine a bit whether it's going up, down, down, up, straight, hissing sound, flat, and this is what I guess most of us did, and we feel it's bird A. Yeah, let's come to one of our favorite species, barbets, crugivorous birds. They are good seed dispersers as well. So we have white-cheeked barbet here and blue-throated barbet here at the white-cheeked on the top, blue-throated at the bottom, A and B on the top. And let's play the same game. I hope all of you can see the spectrogram as well. Okay, I'll play it one more time. Okay, what about answers?
So Aniket, Anand, and Suyash think it's B. Everybody else thinks it's A.
Okay, let's play.
What's your view on this?
Yeah, let's play B. Yeah, so it's actually A, the white-cheeked barbet. In blue-throated barbet, what is happening? The call is starting right at the zero, and that is also a clue. Whereas in top, there is a bit of gap, and then call starts, and it's just one note like kuprut, then gap, then kuprut, then gap. Whereas in B, it's continuous calls, then gap, then continuous calls for a while, and then again there is a break. So it's actually a white-cheeked barbet. But yes, all of us are getting better at this. So we know how to read spectrograms now. So coming back to all this calls, sounds, and spectrogram, how all this is important in research or identifying what is happening with our habitats, whether it's a city, it's town, jungles, or anything, or restored area versus uh, degraded area, and something like that. So we did a small study in Kana Tiger Reserve, in buffer zones of Kana Tiger Reserve, and let me tell you a story about this. The research was quite simple. In central India Kana landscape, in the buffer areas, villagers had been removing lantana. As all of us know, lantana is an invasive species. The moment it starts growing in the forest, even under canopies, it doesn't allow other trees to take over or to regrow. And that's why we have been removing this bush for a long time now. So in Kana buffer area in some regions, forest department had taken this task. They are removing lantana uh, by themselves, and in other areas, village communities like locals residing in the buffer areas or near buffer areas were removing lantana continuously. So we compared areas which were restored or de-weeded by communities and areas which were de-weeded by forest department with the benchmark forest in the core zone, and what we found. So this is how the visually areas look like. On top, this is the restored area. On the right hand side bottom is one of the benchmark where you can see undergrowth is quite clean. There are small sorted trees and then uh, very tall trees which are holding canopy. On bottom, you can see me standing right on the pathway. Left and right of that photograph is filled with lantana understory. and very tall trees to look at. So every time it's not possible to take your parabola dish and sit out there recording for long hours. So people have also used ARUs or automatic recorded units. It's nothing but a small recorder. Here you can see my fellow researcher holding two types of different recorders. One is AudioMoth, one is Swift. These are two different recorders by different companies. It's nothing but putting up a camera trap. Here in audio recorder, you get recordings, audio recordings rather than the image. There is no sensor, but now we can put timings like, okay, give me recordings, continuous recordings for uh, maybe early morning or 7 to 10, or give me recordings in breaks like record for 4 minutes, sleep for 1 minute again, and do this for per se schedule like 10 hours or 2 hours in morning, 2 hours in evening. So depending on what species you want to study, you can give different schedules to these recorders and later on retrieve the memory card and study the sounds. So what we found was there was no significant difference in cumulative number of species which were detected. So these detections were the like these were the recorded detections. These were the calls. So it was people like me and other colleagues who went through all the recorded data. We use Raven software to visualize the spectrogram, also listen to the audio data, because sometimes calls might be very faint and you may not see them in image analysis softwares like Raven or other softwares like Kaleidoscope, and there are many apps and softwares to do that. But interestingly, we didn't see much difference in the restored area versus uh, unrestored area or invaded areas and benchmarks. But we saw the community dynamics of the birds, like birds which were flocking together in restored areas or lantana infested area, they had a different community compared to restored, and also the birds which were in the benchmark forest. So what do I mean by this? That some type of woodpeckers, the sparrows or mynas or munias or red wattle lapwings and other birds were found in lantana infested areas. Whereas in restored areas, we had bigger woodpeckers, flycatchers, more frugivore birds in the benchmarks or unrestored areas. And similarly, the species composition changed. Then we also looked at acoustic space use, like what is happening if we put together 24 hours and see the activity in lantana infested area versus benchmark versus restored. And we found out in lantana infested areas or untreated areas, birds were vocalizing for short time. Insects vocalization was for short duration. Uh, then in restored, and the highest activity was yes seen in the benchmark or the untouched forest. So this is how the research of acoustic space occupancy helped us to understand that restored area is actually going closer towards benchmark or the area which which was untouched. Now, I want all of you. You can even look at this beautiful picture and hear the sound. But if you close your eyes, I'm sure I'll be able to take you to one of my favorite tiger reserves, Satpura Tiger Reserve in central India. This is where I have recorded this sound. Uh, this is actually called a soundscape, where all the elements in the surroundings are recorded. And if you do it for longer duration, you can also understand how quiet your environment is, how noisy your environment is, and what is the trend, what is whether it's because it is going from noisy to quiet species, low species count to high species count, or vice versa. So yes, let's go to Sakura. Let's close our eyes or keep looking at screen and follow through the sounds. Okay, now I'm going to give you a last task. I'm going to play this sound again, and it will be great if you can drop down what all sounds you are hearing in this recording. Drop down your answers. There might be bird, there might be insect, there might be amphibians, or there could be some mammal. So you can write down your answers in chat box, and I'll play this sound again. Let's see how well I've been able to help you out with listening to the sounds and eavesdropping on in the landscape. Okay, Sushil, do we have any answers?
Yes, interesting answers. Most of them
Okay.
have definitely heard the tiger.
Uh-huh.
Uh, some of them have said croaking of a frog, a cricket, uh, cicada,
Mm-hmm.
jungle owlet, cricket
Oh,
frog.
wow.
But the most interesting one is by Aniket, which is spotted dove.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And
So,
Ati Datar is
um,
asking if there is also barbet.
okay. So, let's go to spectrogram and see what all things are there. So, this is a spectrogram of same sound, and I've also annotated and used Canva to mark the species and use the screen recording to make a schooling spectrogram. So this is also going to help you out to reveal your answer. So orange is definitely tiger, two different species of crickets, and yes, those things that they were given called the owlet. Yeah, so this boxing or marking the sounds, individual notes and calls per se, is also called annotation or mark in technical terms. But yes, today we learn how to eavesdrop, how to visualize the sounds, how to take notes of the calls so that suppose you can't record, like you forget to record or you can't, at that time you're unable to record the sound, you can take notes and come back later, go through field guides and look at the calls. It also helps us to narrow down what habitat, and like habitat also helps you to narrow down on species, and then you can uh, narrow down to calls what all birds and mammals and stuff creatures are expected to be heard in that region. Season plays a big role in learning words through calls. Also, whether it's daytime or nighttime, or what time of the day you are out, uh, venturing out, and what can you expect. And yes, I hope I tried make it more interesting. And yes, happy birding. Let's go out. Let's pay attention to bird calls and, of course, other creatures as well, and enjoy the soundscape along with our photography journey or videography journey. And yes, the best part is venturing out and taking wholesome experience of nature. Yeah, thanks a lot. So
So
I'll
Siddharth,
stop sharing. Yeah,
so
and
there's a
I'll just
request by CS Nature, which I think is Suyash. He's saying, can you
uh,
please confirm the sounds and species in the in the last spectrogram?
oh sure, definitely. I will do that. And someone said there was sound of barbet, right? So that must have
Hmm.
been nothing but a jungle nightjar present in that. And sometimes it happens that we don't see the sound on spectrogram, but we can hear it. It's a faint sound which is not come up on the spectrogram, but it's there in the recording. So that also happens. But definitely there was a jungle owlet, crickets, and frogs.
So I think Suyash, that answers the question. The outlet was jungle outlet. That was your specific doubt. Also, Anand says uh, this spectrogram is such a good way to visualize all the various animals that share that ecosystem. Agreed. I totally
Yes,
agree.
yes.
It is such
So
a great way to visually show what all we heard, right?
yeah, and so yeah, there is Ocean Audio software where you can see spectrogram. There is another, like, lots of editing softwares, sound editing softwares. They show spectrograms. Also, this Merlin app. When we play any call in Merlin app, a small Dropbox comes and we see spectrum. What we see is nothing but a spectrogram. Yes,
This is an amazing way to explore forest now, and also a brilliant way to answer questions. Like, for example, one of the most recent, so finding new species is a big thing. But primarily in today's era, when most of the species are discovered and described, the only things that we usually think of that could be new are arachnids, insects, some amphibians and reptiles. But finding a new bird species, void something is very, very rare. And one of the recent discoveries from India has been a thrush, which surprisingly was discovered on the basis of a call. Now, there
yeah,
was scientists, there's a well-known birder, an ornithologist from India called Shashank Dalvi. He with some Swiss scientists who were exploring the Himalayas, and they came across something that looked like a plain back thrush. But the call never matched to the plain back thrush. And as they ascended from one elevation to other, which is going from the lower elevation to above the tree line and those areas, they realized birds that were looking exactly the same uh, did not have the same calls. So that is when they went back to the forest department, got the permissions to collect some blood samples to genetically and phylogenetically see if they were identical or they just had a bad throats due to the cold altitude. But eventually, they ended up proving that it was a different species, and it was named as the Himalayan forest thrush.
yes,
So next time you go on field, and thanks to the new age cameras, it would be great to create an audio or an audio video library from India, because there's such great diversity in India, but is barely documented. And today we have tech that can do it. Also, if you have doubts, this is one of the ways to solve it, I think, or to take it
yes.
forward at least to the right people.
Yeah, and see, this is not intrusive way. Now we are using tech so much that just one word, like one recording, can solve a lot of questions. And we don't probably have to handle the bird, or you don't have to capture a specimen, preserve the specimen and stuff. Similarly, rediscovery of birds has become very easy by
Yes.
recordings like Jaden
Yes.
courses. multiple recorders. Like I can't even name how, like number, like tell you the number, how many recorders were put by Robin Vijayan's team and Shashank's team, and how many hours of recordings they must have,
Yeah.
scrolled through. Like for Kanha Tiger Reserves data analysis, we analyze 72 hours of recordings,
Wow.
and there is still a lot of data. Like we just did early morning dawn chorus, and there is still nocturnal data still available. Daytime data is still available, and after some 70 or 80 hours recording, like analyzing recordings, only one sound clip we heard tigers. So sometimes it also is very difficult that your rare species or species which vocalizes rarely
Mm-hmm.
in your study area, they have been captured. But yeah, that also happens.
Because when Shashank discovered the species, I always wondered how people did it. And then
Hmm.
I heard a talk, and that really opened a lot of doors for me because having been working in the Himalayas and in a region which is very close to three countries, like
Yes.
I work in Sikkim and it's surrounded by China on one side, Bhutan on one, and Nepal on the other, and we every season, every spring, we report at least 2 to 3 new birds for the state. Now we know that is not tough because we are such a tiny place that birds from Bhutan end up coming to where we are, or birds from Nepal fly in, or birds from China fly in, and vice versa. But these are the birds that we visually see. I have no clue how many more birds must be jumping in, hopping across the borders into Sikkim once we start recording the calls. And that is why I was keen on learning this myself.
Yes.
Also, in the meanwhile, there are some interesting comments for you, Siddharth, in
Yeah.
the comment section. Anand says, getting ideas to use spectrogram in photography itself now.
Oh.
Then he continues to say, always look at hearing calls as a way to spot birds, frogs, animals. This was a good way to focus on the calls themselves as a way to observe animals. Great eye, bracket, or ears opening session. Also, Sachin, who is a regular with Journeys, has an interesting question. He says, does Siddharth take Himalayan walks? Sachin, to answer you, I don't know if you've seen the recent announcement. Siddharth has joined the Journeys Explore team officially as one of our mentors, and we will be doing a lot of programs with him as well, not just in Himalaya, in different landscapes. In fact, in the coming time, we might actually do a bioacoustic program on one of our photo walks near Pune. So it would be fun
Yes.
to do it in real time. And then we all can come back and assess on a spectrogram about whatever species we came across. So,
Yeah.
like I said in the beginning, these won't be just online sessions. Depending upon what the presenter has to do, we will do online sessions, we will do Instagram lives, and we are also planning to do offline sessions in and around Pune. Why Pune? Because all of us are primarily based out of Pune. So that's why. But we will do a lot of interesting nature trails and photo walks for all of you. I hope this was a fun session. Siddharth, before I leave, I have another message to read for you. This is by Suyash. He says, I was in Sirsi last year and met a group of researchers working on winter frog vocalizations. It was fascinating to see how they could isolate individual calls
Yeah.
from complex soundscape. Could you share a bit about the techniques or softwares used to differentiate and identify these sounds? I'd like to hear your views on this.
Yeah. So, uh, good news is now a research software is available in India for free of cost, and that is Raven. Earlier, we used to get only Raven Lite, so a lot of there was a bit of restriction on the use, but now we have the complete package, and that is not gonna change for long term. So if you have eBird address, or if your email address is registered on eBird, or just use your email address and download Raven software that is there on Macaulay library, and uh, you can record sounds in your phone or any other like digital recorders, and the way we drag and drop our photographs, one can drag and drop sound file, either wave file WAV file is always better. It's just like our raw file of our photographs, or the, what is the other form? The, there's a crisp version of a recording also, that also can be used. Like counterpart is a JPEG file in photographs. So drag and drop your file, and the spectrogram is generated. One can play around with, if you want color spectrogram, black and white spectrogram, and scroll through the spectrogram looking at what all calls are there from high frequency to low frequency, or 0 to whatever kilohertz soundscape is there. A bit of background study is required, where we need to know in which frequency band our study species, like the winter frogs in Circe. So they must have done the background research. Okay, this particular frog, suppose that dancing frog, vocalizes in this frequency band. They must have looked at each and every call in that frequency band, and again boxed all the recordings, or all the calls, and save the table. That creates a table and save the file as well. And that's how. So in research, as we know, we need more and more data, and multiple, and from multiple locations. So you to come to a conclusion, and then you run a statistical analysis, where you from visualizing spectrogram, like first listening to the calls, visualizing spectrogram, generating a table where you get some numbers, which then can further analyze by statistical software. How much is mix and match, how much closeness, or difference is there in between these numbers, and then you come down to a conclusion that okay, there are these species, there is this group of species sometimes, because it is possible that they are genetically related but different species, and their vocalizations are quite similar, like our bush frogs. Like they sound very similar to our ears. That's a Bombay bush frog and other bush frog, Angoli and Bombay, I guess. And they sound very similar, but when you see it on spectrogram, uh, there is nothing but the the space they occupy on the spectrogram is different, and there is a little bit of variation in frequencies also. And
Yeah.
this frequency variation happens based on their morphology and anatomy. So when there was another thing that okay, our cities are getting louder and chaotic, whether birds are gonna leave the space, or they're gonna change their frequencies. So we can't expect common myna to go to crow's frequency, because they are bounded in their
Right.
anatomy and morphology. But common myna in city might sound louder compared to common mynas in some village area, because, and that is the behavioral change, where uh, the city chaos, or a noise, or a white noise, I say, comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, one of the most confusing frog groups in India is Fejarvaria, is the genus name. The common name is cricket frogs, or the previous name was paddy field frogs. All of them look the
Yes.
same across the country. And although bioacoustics is a very recent science to India, but primitively also scientists on the basis of hearing used to identify them. Like Pune
Yeah.
has at least four species, and all of them have distinct calls. And that is how, because except for genetics, everything else was same in all these species, is what was realized. So it's a fantastic science to explore. So if there are any questions, this is the time I would. Okay, so Anand has something to say. He says, feel like adding this kind of audio recording equipment along with camera traps could give a more interesting understanding of the animals in that area instead of just seeing the photo. Agree, totally agree. But like
Yes.
I said, this is a very recent science. Even scientists are recently exploring it, so it would take some time for the
Yes.
government officials to get to it.
True.
But yes, thank you, Siddharth, for a fantastic session, and what a great way to restart the journeys meetup trend again. So, like I said, guys, we will do a lot more sessions like these. What I would do is I would ask Siddharth to put these pointers in our Journey fam group. Now, by pointers,
Yes.
I'm talking about the softwares, equipments that you guys wanted to know. He can list, or websites. He can list them in our Journey fam group. For half of you are already on that group. For people who are not on that group, what is this group? This is basically a WhatsApp group where we share data. Data can be anything. Basically, we can share sightings that we come across. We share photographs that we click. We share videos that we click. We share interesting articles, research papers, anything interesting to do with outdoors. Not just we, even audience shares it there because it's just a platform for people to connect and share data. So that if you're not a part of it, you can DM us on Journey's Instagram account, and I'll give you the invite link to the WhatsApp group. Although half of you are already there, in case those who are not on the group and would like to join the group, let us know. We'll definitely add you to the group. And like I said, right now, I can ask Siddharth to list websites and software that he
Yes.
mentioned so that you can go back to them and explore them later. Thank you, Siddharth, for a fantastic session. And thank you guys for attending it on a Sunday evening. It was good fun, and I hope to do this on field with all of you very, very soon.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, guys,
Yes.
so let's call it a day now. I hope you can go back to your Sunday celebration.